This is my 2005 Subaru Legacy GT Wagon. It's got forged internals, a bigger ball bearing turbo, a JDM STI 6-speed swap, STI interiors, big StopTech ST40 brakes. It makes about 350 to 400 wheel horsepower. Well, I think. I actually have no idea how much power this makes. The car doesn't run. I've always wanted a wagon, and this one had all the right parts on it. The 6-speed, the brakes, the suspension, the really nice interior. It's a very similar car to my previous car, a 2008 Legacy GT Spec B. I sold my Spec B because I wanted an FD-RX-7, but I knew the day after I sold my Spec B that I would miss it, so when I saw this car for sale, I couldn't pass it up. So I've decided to name this car Betsy, because I'm kind of taking a bet on it. See, the previous owner of this car passed away, so I bought this car from the widow, which means there's a lot of unknowns in this build. Now, thankfully, he had a lot of documentation, there's a lot of PDFs, and there's a lot of information, work logs out there for this car, which is going to be really helpful in trying to figure out how to get this car back on the road.
You might remember back in February when we bought this car, we went up to Chicago to pick it up and drove all the way back through the snow, which was awful. But ever since then, it's just been sitting here. I haven't touched this car, I haven't looked at this car, I haven't looked at this awesome flat bottom steering wheel that's not bolted in. So before I go through explaining what needs to be done to get this car back on the road, let me just kind of walk through some of the parts that it has. And thankfully, I have a full parts list because the previous owner was awesome and kept really good documentation of stuff. So I have all the receipts and all the parts lists and everything like that, you know, and Excel sheets and stuff like that. So let me just cover some of the basic stuff. I'll just kind of walk around the car and point out things and kind of show you guys what we're working with here. Alright, so here you are in the engine bay. He kept the plastic manifold, which is really cool, because the plastic manifold's supposed to flow better and doesn't get as much heat soak. So that's pretty neat. Looks like there's a hard intake here and a hard inlet pipe, which is really weird. I haven't seen one of those before. Grimspeed 3-port solenoid or whatever. It's got a Koyo radiator, which is really nice touch. Really like these radiators, really solid work. He's got a front mount intercooler here, and then this is a power steering cooler, which I found interesting. And then up here he has a top mount oil cooler, which is really cool. Really like that that design because he's using the hood scoop for the oil cooler, and then obviously he's got the front mount, you know, coming in the air through the bumper. So that's pretty neat. He put some HIDs in here. These are, you know, custom projectors, some dual projectors. Obviously, the regular ones came with the single projector, but this one's got both, which is neat. And the angel eyes. No idea if any of that's hooked up. Obviously, this stuff isn't plugged in or anything like that, so that's not hooked up. He's got a Boomba fuel rail, and I want to say 750cc fuel injectors. I'll have to look at the parts list. And then back there, it's a MAP Performance 20G, I believe it is, a 20G turbo, which is a pretty healthy size. It's a billet ball bearing turbo as far as I know, so that's pretty neat. And then he's got the STI 6-speed back there. Obviously, you can't see, it's in the shadow. But that's pretty cool, you know. He's got the silicone radiator hoses, and like all these hoses and stuff here are the, you know, double-walled silicone, which is really nice, you know, all throughout the engine. So that was a really nice touch. He really went all out and did everything right. Over here, obviously, we've got the StopTech ST45 brakes. The paint on this car is gonna have to be redone. It's just not great. There's Jordans and stuff everywhere. He's got the JDM power folding mirrors, which is really cool, on electric motors. I don't know if he ever got them hooked in or anything like that. Coming inside here, it's got the STI seats. I believe they're JDM. They might be USDM from a 2008, I want to say, STI. The ECU and everything like that's all apart, so that's fun. That's some of the work that we got to get to. It does have the 6-speed out of the STI, which is a really strong transmission if you're not familiar with those. That's Subaru gold right there. I want that in every Subaru I ever own. I want that transmission. Got a flat bottom steering wheel. This leather here is not looking well from sitting, which is not nice, but it's pretty cool. He's got like an inverter and stuff in there. All right, in the back we have Brembos, so they're I guess Rotoras is what they're called. But they're basically the, you know, the Brembos from the STI. There are some STI PSS coilovers. They're supposedly really nice. I hadn't heard of them until, I looked them up on this car. All right, and coming around the back here, you'll notice it's a JDM rear bumper. So it's a little bit of a shorter bumper here. It doesn't stick out quite as far as the USDM one, so that's pretty neat. It's got the JDM lights over there and stuff like that. So there's the JDM front bumper. Obviously it is not bolted up or anything like that. I'm gonna have to do some work on that to figure that out. I don't think it's actually hitting anything. It just needs to be kind of tightened up and kneaded up.
So that's most everything that's done to the car. I'll leave a full list of modifications of everything that I know in the description below. So after 6 months of the car sitting in my garage, I think the time has finally come for me to be able to put some time into this car and attempt to get it running.
Alright, so what needs to be done to get this thing on the road? I mean, everything seems like it's together, everything seems like I could just get in the car, turn the key, and drive it away.
But it's nowhere near that close. There's a lot of work that still needs to be done, mainly with the electrical wiring, and unfortunately that's not something I'm very good at. There's a lot of D-pin wires underneath the dash, which I'm not sure why. There's a lot of aftermarket wiring in the car, so a factory wiring diagram isn't going to be the gospel for me.
Outside of that, there's just little things here and there. Obviously I have to run through everything and make sure everything's where it should be and together. Some things I've found already, this like intake pipe or whatever, charge pipe is not, not bolted down and stuff like that. So things like that I'm gonna have to kind of look through and find. I found a vacuum line that wasn't, attached and stuff like that.
So there's a lot of double checking the previous owner's work. Since he's not around, I can't ask him. I'll need to make sure all the critical components are where they need to be before I can work on some of the more cosmetic items.
So first things first, I have to work on the electrical because I need a key to put in there to be able to turn to get it started. After that, I think I'm gonna get moving with fuel. Check to see if there is fuel in the tank. I didn't hear a fuel pump in there when I give the car power. So that's interesting. There might not be a fuel pump in there, which is good because that means there's not old gas running up in here. I believe he passed away in 2014, so it would have been 3 years now. 3 years, gas is not good after 3 years. It goes bad after 3 years. So I hope there's not gas in the engine because that would mean the fuel injectors and everything like that can get all gummed up. I don't think that's the case because I didn't hear a fuel pump, but that's just another thing to check. So a lot of little things to check here and there.
So stay tuned, it's gonna take me a while. I'm not the greatest at figuring out electrical issues, and I don't have the most time, but I am promising that I'm gonna put as much time as I possibly can to get this car running. There might only be a video on this every month or so, but it will get done. Not only because I want to have this awesome wagon running around, but because I'm sure it's what the previous owner would have wanted, and I hope that I can finish the build that he started.